You're welcome back. Many thanks for staying with us here on Breakfast Daily. It's time now to move into our communities and look up some of the issues that are cropping up. Now, there's a worrying phenomenon that's growing in the Ashanti regional capital, Kumasi. The Municipal Assembly, the KMA, has issued directives barring tricycle operators from operating in the Central Business District, the CBD. Now, this has generated some resistance. I mean, the directive has been met with fierce resistance by the tricycle operators, popularly known as Pragya, in the Ashanti region. Now, there's growing concern because, according to the Assembly, they've engaged the operators a number of times, as even before the rollout of the directive. However, on the day of implementation, they were met with fierce resistance. There was a clash initially between the Assembly's task force, and the Pragya operators. This escalated into a clash between the police who were sent there as reinforcement and the operators. And we understand some six police officers, sustained varying degrees of injury. We also understand some 12 tricycle operators have been picked up by the police. Let's bring you a report on this, and then we can get into a discussion on the matter.
It has been weeks since the Kumasi Metropolitan Assembly started going back and forth with tricycle operators to get them to comply with a directive to restrict their movement in parts of the city. The enforcement team on Monday impounded some tricycles after some of the operators failed to comply with the directive. After the tricycles were taken to the Assembly's premises, some persons mobilized and stormed the yard to demand the release of the tricycles. This resulted in a clash between the team, the police officers, and the protesters. 12 of them, who were arrested on Tuesday, appeared before the Ekropon District Court and were charged with conspiracy to commit crime, to wit, rioting, causing unlawful damage, and rioting with weapons.
In actual sense, when they came, they were able to disperse the people, and then there were 6 police officers who have been wounded by the mob, and so they were taken to Konfanochi, they were taken to the hospital for attention. And then 12 of the people that were there in the mob, I wouldn't say tricycle operators, because it's possible that the number of people that were there were more than the tricycles that had been picked. So maybe somebody called the brother and then they were all just coming in to support them. 12 of them were arrested. And then they were taken to the police station. And today they were processed to court, and the court has remanded them for 1 week.
The Assembly insists it will not rescind its decision to enforce the directive as part of the Transport Reorganization Initiative.
It is not like we have targeted, but their numbers are increasing. They are increasing in spots within the CBD, the junctions, the walls of certain places, the zoo area, KJTR Terminado, 24 roundabout area, Malcolm area. They are gradually grouping around these areas. And if we don't take care and take any action, in some few years, we'll have the whole of the city center used for commercial vehicle activities.
The leadership of the tricycle operators has disassociated itself with Monday's disturbances and appealed to the KMA to intensify education on the directive.
As we said this morning, we disassociated ourselves from what happened yesterday. But today we are here to make sure that what happened yesterday, at least it won't happen again. But you see, the problem is the KMA people should try to comply on 1 or 2 things so that things will be normal. As we had a meeting with the police commanders, they said any Pragya driver who got to the restricted area should be sacked to go back, not to arrest. Look at this place as we are. The moment you keep on arresting these people here, definitely they will mobilize more here. At the end, they will come more than the security here, then their mind will give them that since we are more than the security here, let's fight for our mottos, then it will bring another chaos.
There was, however, heavy security presence at the premises of the KMA on Tuesday to prevent a possible invasion of the tricycle operators. Citi News checks in parts of the metropolis indicates an improvement in the compliance level by the tricycle operators. The accused persons are, however, expected back in court in a week's time.
So these 12 tricycle operators have been remanded by the court. Now, if the KMA says it had engaged the leadership of these operators, are the leadership in touch with their members?
Right.
Because if really these engagements had gone on and there had been a clear understanding of what the directives are, then I don't think we'll be here. But for me, the biggest challenge is if a city authority is unable to carry out a directive of decongesting its city, reducing accidents in the city, then we're in for a big problem.
Right.
You understand? But you see, my worry is that this did not begin with 1,000 tricycles on day one.
Sure.
It started from somewhere.
Yeah.
From 1, you saw it.
Yeah.
2,
10.
you saw it.
Right.
10, 20, 50, you saw it. And you allow it to grow up to a point that it becomes this difficult to stop it. And that is where my challenge is. When we see the problem creeping up, we don't stop it in the offing.
So I think it's about being proactive.
Exactly.
And they didn't see it. They didn't envision that it was going to be, that it was going to increase. That's what I think. I feel like they didn't envision that it was going to increase, that it's going to be more and more of them.
Then that's a big problem because somebody sitting in that office is assigned to do some of these things.
Yeah.
That's why there's a planning
Right.
department in there. You're supposed to observe the growth of the population in the area and, of course, plan towards accommodating same.
True.
So if you're unable to do some of these things and you allow it to grow to, now this, they will tell you is a bread and butter issue.
It is
that
a bread and butter
CBD
issue.
is the most populated area and their business is a business of numbers. They would want to go in there, in order to get customers
Yes.
and ferry them or carry them to wherever it is their final destination is, to and fro. And that is how they'll make their money. Now, I don't know what the details of this directive is, but what we understand is that they're stopping them from coming into the central business district. Where are you taking us? What is the alternative route? Where do we go to ply our trade? Will that place be equally or similarly or relatively as busy as the CBD so we can get the numbers from there? So you see, there should be proper education or proper communication of this policy, this directive, if that has not been done. But if it has been done and these operators are just being stubborn, just being recalcitrant, then of course you should be bold enough to crack the whip.
But you said something earlier. You said they had already had engagement with
Yes.
the members of, or with the heads.
Leadership.
Yeah, with the heads of
Exactly.
these people. And obviously, if it's obvious that it's not working for them, because I'm
Clearly.
sure the leadership would have, told their members that, okay, this is what the government is saying right now. But I'm sure they tried. I'm just guessing because I don't think anybody would want to work against the government. Maybe they tried. But it would actually be nice to talk to someone to know exactly what really
and we saw
is
in that
going
report,
on.
one of the leaders dissociates the leadership from the chaos that occurred at the KMA. And that is one big problem because
That's a problem because you
as
can't
a
even control
leader,
yourself.
Exactly. If your members take a certain line of action and you're unable to justify or defend it, and all you do is dissociate yourself from it, then that's very problematic. Yes, more or less, you're not in control of your people. Well, there's been an intervention by the Member of Parliament for Aswase, Muntaka Mubarak. Yesterday, he spoke to both sides. The Assembly urged caution amongst the tricycle operators. Let's bring you that report as well, and then we can...
After Monday's disturbances at the premises of the Kumasi Metropolitan Assembly, which led to the arrest and subsequent remand of 12 protesters, tricycle Pragya riders escalated their resistance to the Assembly's directive on Wednesday. The main Anaga Junction Airport stretch was the center of attraction after the tricycle Prague riders blocked the busy road, causing vehicular traffic and distracting motorists. An angry motorist, said to be an officer of the national security, confronted the protesters at one of the intersections and fired a warning shot to disperse them. But that did not stop them until the police came in to control the situation and got them to take off the roadblocks. The tricycle Prague riders refused to work on Wednesday and also prevented other riders from working. Many commuters were left stranded.
I was going to the market. When I get to the station, they said the Prague people are not working. Yeah, it has affected me and it has wasted my time. Because if there was a Prague here, I would have been in the market right now. I wouldn't have been standing here wasting time. So it has wasted my time a lot.
The tricycle Prague operators later converged at a community park where the Aswansi Member of Parliament addressed them.
Peaceful demonstration.
Alhaji Mutaka Mubarak proposed some measures to help bring sanity and however called on city authorities to adopt a pragmatic approach to deal with the issue.
If I were the city mayor and I'm going to implement this, I'll say one, I would not want anybody below the age of 21 to come into that busy place. You need to have your motor rider's license to be able to come in. You need to be able to show that someone can guarantee for you. Okay, let's say someone can guarantee for you. So I will put these measures, and then I'll also introduce a fee to say that, for example, every year, maybe you pay 200 cedis for the use of the congestion area. What this does automatically is that it eliminates the rough ones. Because with the gators, if somebody is less than 21, then he cannot come in. If somebody doesn't want to have the sticker, then he will not come in. If you don't pay the fee, you cannot come in. If you don't have your rider's driver license, you cannot come in. So automatically you reduce the chaos. So I rather think that we should not use the lazy man's approach. Let's be pragmatic. Let's look at how to deal with this so that we don't make people look as if they are targeted unnecessarily because they are of certain background.
He expressed dissatisfaction about recent disturbances at the premises of the KMA between some tricycle Prague operators and the police after they demanded the release of impounded tricycles. He warned the tricycle Prague operators to refrain from attacking the police and state properties in trying to get their grievances addressed.
I'm also told that some officers, police officers, also got injured during this fracas, and that also called for concern. So I want to take this opportunity to empathize with the police administration for whatever excesses that might have happened. And I also want to urge the young men that in all that we are doing, later I told them directly that we should be mindful that we don't take the laws into our hands. You cannot just do one wrong thing to correct a wrong that you may perceive is being done. So we want the police administration to also be measured in their dealing with them. They should understand that the young guys are frustrated, but the young guys should also understand that the police are there to maintain law and order.
The leadership of the tricycle Prague riders has resolved to continue engagement with city authorities and has also urged its members to comply with the directive.
Well, I think We will say we are grateful to our member of parliament. So, but our next line of action will be we will try to go back to try engaging the Kumasi Metropolitan Assembly Authority on how they will carry their exercise. As they said, they will continue up to Friday. Up to Friday. So since now we have advised our people not to go to those areas, so I think we have to go to them and assist them so that at least we won't hear any we arrest this person to extend it to amount to any chaos or any brutality anymore.
The team from the KMA is continuing with its enforcement of the directive.
Quite worrying, quite troubling, but it's also refreshing to know that the Member of Parliament for Aswase, Muntaka Mubarak, has intervened, called for cool heads to prevail, advised the operators to exercise restraint, and then also urging the Assembly to re-strategize on this particular directive. But you see, as I was saying earlier, I think this is a self-inflicted transport system failure. We all knew that this thing was going to go commercial and the dangers involved in it. We know the nuisance these tricycle operators and Okada riders have posed in other areas. But we allowed it to grow. And like I was saying, it did not start with 1,000 tricycles. It started with just a few.
Right.
Now it has grown to become a business, a source of livelihood. Who would sit down for you to take food out of their mouths?
Right, right.
Who would sit down for you to cut off their lifeline? And that is where we are. That is why we are seeing the type of resistance we're seeing today.
And you know, like ironically, even the passengers, want them.
Exactly, because you see, I don't know if you've been to Kumasi recently, but the Garden City as we knew it to be is not like it was before. There's increased population, there's increased vehicular movement, and so there's increased traffic. These tricycles, what they call the pragya, are able to maneuver.
True.
You get it? So it's an easy go, easy come type of system. And it's faster. It's convenient for these people who patronize it.
Have you ever sat on one before?
There's, I have. But then the dangers associated with it are real. You get it? And I mean, like I keep saying, we always have good policies, good directives, but the implementation of it becomes a challenge. Our Ashanti regional correspondent, Hafiz Tijani, has been on the beat on this particular matter, and he joins us via Zoom. Good morning, Hafiz.
Good morning, Nana.
Hi, I trust you're doing well.
I'm well, Nana. How are you too?
I'm great. It's been a busy 3 days for you with the Assembly and Pragya operators. But tell us in summary what you've gathered so far.
Well, so it is a policy the KMA is trying to implement after it is embarking or it's begun its initiative on the transport reorganization in the city, because the KMA says that transport in the city is becoming uncontrollable. So it wants to put measures in place
It looks like we're having some challenges with Hafiz.
Right,
go ahead.
So they are looking at how to decongest the city, and so the KMA wants to decongest the city and try to get transport or movement of vehicles and commuters easily within busy market centers like Kejetia, like Edum, and the Central Business District. And the KMA is also trying to reduce the road crashes. Recently, there was a report by Bloomberg Road Safety which indicated that there's increasing crashes within the metropolis in terms of vehicular knockdowns, in terms of vehicular crashes within busy areas like the Central Business District. and the increasing infiltration of these tricycle pragia within the central business district. That report also pointed to the increasing number of these tricycle operators within these areas, and they are part of the accident issues within the metropolis. So the KMA had to do its consultation and said that it will begin the transport reorganization, but it is going to start with the tricycles, tricycle pragia operators, so that it will do it in phases and then reach to the taxi cabs, the other commercial vehicles, intra and intercity transport within the central business district and the major trading areas. So the KMA started with these operators, but the education initially did not go down well with them. When the KMA brought out the announcement, the understanding for these operators was that the KMA was going to stop them entirely from doing their business, but that was not the case. The assembly further explained that it wanted to just limit their presence in areas within the central business district. So we are looking at Edum, which is the main central business district, and we are looking at the KJT area, part of Central Market and Dr. Mensah, and part of the KJT Zoo area heading to the racecourse area. So tricycle operators who would want to come to the central business district will not be allowed, but they can access other areas within the metropolis. So the first directive was that tricycle operators were not supposed to operate within Anoga Junction and the labor area.
Okay.
But there was a review, there was a meeting and engagement with these operators, and the KMA had to review its directive and said that, okay, so you can come to labor from Anoga Junction, you can come to labor, but you can access areas within the central business district and KJTIA. So that brought this confrontation between the tricycle operators and the KMA.
Right now, but Hafiz, these alternative areas they are the assembly is offering the operators to ply. How busy are these areas, and will it suffice? Because you see now, it's a business of numbers. They would want to go into the CBD, where they are likely to get more potential customers than these other areas. So, if you're to compare, really, would they be making ends meet if they were allowed into the CBD?
Well, Nana, you said it right. That is the concern for the tricycle pragia operators. They said that when they come to the CBD, they are able to make a lot of sales. So, assuming a passenger is picking this pragia tricycle to an area like from the central business district to, let's say, the Araga Junction, the kind of charges that will be given is different. And when they go, before they return to the central business district, they are not able to get more sales. They are saying that if within the central business district, they are picking a passenger to one point, just in a short distance, they are able to make more money than picking them to other areas. So within the central business district, they are able to make short distances and get more money than make longer distances or a very long distance and getting
Hafiz? Right. Well, it looks like we have some challenges with the connectivity with Hafiz, but we'll work it and get him back on. But basically, as I've been saying, so it looks like that. Well, Hafiz, I understand, is back. Hafiz, are we good now? You can continue with your submission.
Yes, Nana. So, like I was saying, when they make long distances, they're able to get more money than they make.
Looks like we're having some challenges with the connection this morning. But yes, basically we're discussing the impasse between tricycle operators and the Kumasi Metropolitan Assembly regarding a directive by the Assembly limiting access to the Central Business District for these tricycle operators. It's been met with fierce resistance, as we have come to know. We're trying to understand why this is so, because we've been told ever since the story broke out that there's been a number of engagements between the Assembly and the operators. So we are at a loss as to why the rollout of the directive is being resisted despite previous engagements. And as Hafiz was trying to explain earlier, the initial communication didn't go down well.
Yes.
And so they thought they were being barred from
They're being banned
operating
completely.
entirely.
Yeah.
But that is not so. It's their movement within certain areas that is being restricted.
And now they are saying that, okay, within certain areas don't work for them. You
Exactly.
understand? So if they're in the busy area, they can just do short distance and then make more money than,
simple game
flying
of
the long
numbers.
route.
Simple game of numbers. Hafiz is back. Hafiz, if you can wrap it up for us, the actual concerns of the operators as against the directive by the Assembly.
Okay, so despite several engagements, the KMA has been able to engage them. The KMA has tried to come to terms with some of their concerns. But the leadership, sometimes they understand where the KMA is coming from. But, sometimes the communication from the leadership to their members, some of the members would not just listen. So now the leadership is saying that if the KMA can give them clear guidelines, like issuing stickers to them and putting some measures in place, like issuing the stickers and even placing a fee and other age limits for people who can access central, so that if people are coming there and are not complying with this directive, then the KMA can take any action. So that is what the leadership is now trying to do. So this morning, we are told that there's another meeting between the leadership of these operators and the KMA. There was impounded tricycles, and they are trying to get the KMA to release the impounded tricycles for them. So, and the meeting is also going to discuss how they can set out some modalities to be able to solve this once and for all.
Well, Hafiz, for other commercial vehicles that work within these particular areas, what are the regulations guiding their work? Do they have endorsement stickers by the Assembly? Do they pay some fees over a period to allow them entry into the CBD? What restrictions or regulations are there, and can same be applied to these Pragya operators to help bring some sanity in the space?
Well, so the difference between the commercial vehicles and these operators is that, with the commercial vehicles, you have the GPRTU, you have the Concerned Drivers Association, you have the Pro Tour. So they are a bit regulated, let me say. But it is not all these tricycle operators, Pragya operators, that belong to a union. Some of them do not even belong to their
we're still having those challenges, perhaps an internet problem. But I was looking to find out what the current system is as it exists, because definitely there are other commercial vehicles that work within the same space, i.e. taxis and the buses, what we call the trotro. If they are regulated in any way at all by the Assembly, and if same can be replicated with these Pragya operators, and will this go to bring some sanity in that space? Hafiz is back on. Let's have Hafiz wrap up on this particular one, since we're having challenges with the connection. Hafiz, if you can briefly wrap it up for me with respect to regulations concerning other commercial vehicles, and if same can be replicated with the Pragya operators.
So, Nana, with the commercial vehicles, it's simple to do by the KMA because they belong to unions like the GPRTU, the Pro Tour, and the Concerned Drivers Association. So the KMA is able to do tracing. But when you talk of these operators, many do not.
I guess we're going to have to leave it there with Hafiz. But thank you very much. Hafiz Tijani is Ashanti regional correspondent. He's been our man on the beat since the engagement actually began throughout to the rollout of the directive and to the point where we're witnessing some chaos stemming from the resistance by the operators as against the directive by the Assembly to restrict access to the Central Business District by these tricycle operators. Thank you so very much, Hafiz. So, like, I really wanted him to establish that particular point, but as he was saying, it makes a lot of sense.
Exactly. From what he said, it's easy to control the other people because of their union. So that it just goes to show that the union of the Pragya people or the Abu Yaya people, it's not as strong as the GPRTU. It's not just strong at all, because from what we watched in the beginning of the report, they actually kind of distanced themselves, distance themselves from everything that's been happening. So that means there's no unity, there's no correct structure. But I like the ideas that they are putting out there, that maybe there should be stickers, maybe there should be a fee that they pay or something. I think those are great ideas, and it could actually help in curbing the number of these people that they want in certain areas, because at the end of the day, we cannot tell them to stop completely. It's going to be hard.
You see, there are more questions. Is this a legal means of commercial transport? Have they been approved legally as a means of commercial transport in the country? You see, I'm asking this because if they have been, then right from the onset, there should have been regulations regarding they being used as commercial vehicles. And of course, their mode of application and the routes they can ply.
True.
Like I said, we sit back and allow problems to grow. They become an albatross hanging on our necks, and then we find difficult to take it off. And that is exactly what we have done with this.
Well, I see it as a two-edged sword. What you're saying, and also on the other hand, if you take away this from them, what are they going to be doing?
You see, I don't have a problem. What I'm trying to say is, if it is something we did not want, we should have stopped it from the beginning. Now you have allowed it to grow into an established business. You see, that is the point I'm trying to drum home.
Maybe have unions.
And once they have unions, and you are, as an authority, are engaging them as a union, then you are legitimizing them.
Right, right.
You get it? So now it becomes difficult weeding them out, which is not to say that is what the Assembly is trying to do. But then it becomes very difficult regulating them, because
it was not planned from the beginning.
I mean, I stand to be corrected, but if really they are not legitimate and they would started as an illegal business, you did not stop it. You've allowed them to grow this big, and now you want to come in to regulate. It becomes very difficult to do.
True.
And that is where my concern is.
True.
You see, what you allow is what continues. And that is exactly what we have done with this issue. Like I said, I mean, we did not manufacture these here in this country.
No.
So right from the importation phase, we could have set regulations around their use, their operation, the routes they ply. You get it? True. What was the brain behind bringing them into the country for commercial purposes or for private business or whatever it is?
I think obviously it's for commercial. Anywhere you go in the world, it's for commercial purposes.
As per whose, or I mean, were there any guidelines? Were there any regulations surrounding this?
When you're watching a lot of Indian films, don't you think it influences?
Anyways, let's go on the phone lines and speak to Henrietta Ifiakunedu. She's the Public Relations Officer for the Kumasi Metropolitan Assembly. Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you doing?
By His grace.
Right, we give thanks. Must have been a very difficult week for you and the Assembly with respect to all this resistance that we're seeing against the directive by the Assembly. But we know there has been level of some engagements, but really how deep-rooted were these engagements, and why are we seeing this type of resistance if really these engagements had gone down with the operators?
Right. So, my greetings to your viewers this morning. The assembly, as earlier, I'm sure Hafiz and then Edward might have given reportage as to what is happening with the tricycles. But then the assembly is doing what we call transport reorganization. And as part of it, we are tackling not only the tricycles, we are tackling the trotro, the taxis, the cargo cars, because the assembly realized that the city get congested and then traffic and human movement all come to a standstill, and you're not able to do anything the CBD. And so we have rolled out a process to make sure that the CBD is decongested. And so the assembly on the 29th of April resulted in the General Assembly meeting that the plan has been well discussed, and so it should be implemented. But then it should start from the tricycles, and then we go to the other ones. And so we started engaging with them as far back as April, and the implementation was supposed to take effect in the middle of June. But then when we engaged them, we gave them the map as to where they can go, they can move up to. And initially it was at the ring roads of Kumasi, and they pleaded that the map is too wide. It will be taking them out of jobs. So if we could bring the map, give it in a little bit for them so that they can come forward. And then we also realized that some groups will also come. We're not part of the people that you had meetings with us. We're not part of them, so we kept getting them. So the management team of the assembly decided that then we are going to engage them throughout June, throughout July. And we have done that. So finally, 24th of July, that the ban took effect. And the whole period of 24th throughout to the 30th of July or 31st of July, we observed them at the vantage points that they were supposed to end, but realized that they were still coming to the CBD and all of that. But we used that period as well to engage them. And many times that we traveled, we went to the CBD in the various endpoints that they are not supposed to be. So we did that as well. And then decided that the following week we're going to man people at the various endpoints that they are not supposed to be, so that when you get there, you are told to get back. And we did that as well. But along the line, I think some of them, their feet, numbering 50 tricycles, numbering 50 and 100, blocked the racecourse road, the racecourse junction through to Asantuma Secondary School to Swami Runabout. And so we'll have to use force to get the blockade off the road so that other motorists can also ply the route. They were saying that if they cannot come to the CBD, then they are not going to allow any motorist to use the CBD as well. They again also wrote to management that since they are small, it is they operate in the CBD, so management should get rid of truck drivers, taxi drivers, and all others, and allow them rather to operate in the central business district. And so we told them that they don't get to dictate how KMA should run or implement a decision. And in all the discussions we had with them, we told them that it is not that they are being targeted. It is all the transport unions that we are working with, and we've had meetings with all the unions with them. And so we are going to do it this way. Their plea for the maps to be reduced has been done. All the requests they brought forth has been addressed. So this is how it's going to be rolled out. And they took entrenched position that it is the CBD in quotes. They say, so that is where they want to be.
Right, but that may be right. I mean, but I want to touch on the genesis of the issue. Like, this did not start with 1,000 tricycles. They began at 1, and then the numbers gradually increased. Where was the assembly at this point? Did we not envisage the challenges that we are seeing today, for which reason we are trying to restrict them? And also, are these vehicles, these tricycles, officially licensed or registered to operate as a commercial means of transport?
Okay, so per the laws in Ghana governing transport, the tricycles are privately licensed. So if you see them, their license plate is blue. So it is registered as a private tricycle. That is what they can use it for, a private affair. But then we all know that it is being used for commercial purposes. And then the assembly is also regulated or guided by the national law that says that an item that is private must remain private. But the moment you decide that, let's say you have a van and you want to turn it to church or a commercial van, you are supposed to, when you get all your reckoning from DVLA and all the other agencies, you are supposed to come to the assembly. But before you come to the assembly, the law says that you must belong to a recognized union. So it means that before you have a union, your union must go through all the registration process that the laws of Ghana state for one to have an association. You must belong to that union. And then you come to the assembly. Then assembly issues what we call a BOP or a business permit. You are given a license to operate, which is for a year duration. January, let's say if it's 2023, January 2023 to 31st December 2023. That is it. And then the benefits of your association, you enjoy it. And then the regulations that the union has, you also comply with them. So if the assembly has given Union A this point to operate, because you are part of the union, you also get to operate as that union. But in the case of the tricycles, they are licensed privately. The state or the laws of Ghana sees them as a private entity. So the assembly cannot regulate them by saying that we are giving you a sticker and all that kind. Until the laws is amended, nationally it is amended, the assembly cannot give them stickers or a place to operate.
But then they are operating illegally then. Because if you are licensed as a private vehicle, then you cannot operate as a commercial vehicle. So the assembly should have stopped them entirely from the beginning.
My brother, we have not done that. Or let's say all the assemblies in Ghana, they are working there. We have not done that. It has come to stay with us. But then KMA cannot say that, the General Assembly of KMA cannot say we now, by the power vested in us, we are making you commercial entities. No. Until nationally that law is amended, we cannot do that. So it's a conversation that must go on at the national level so that the authorities in charge of transport or parliament or anyone that has the power to do that can have a stakeholder engagement, review it, and then say that, okay, from hence, the tricycles can operate as a commercial entity. It means that they will have to go back to DVLA to change their number plate. They get insurance that will cover the people that they are going to pick up, and then they also tell us that these tricycles can take 2 people, they can take 3 people, or whatever the amended regulation will say. It is at that point that the assembly can say that, okay, you belong to this union. We'll have to verify that if your union is duly registered, and then these are the rules, then you go through them.
Is this something you'll be pushing for, this amendment? Because now it's like we've allowed an illegality to fester. It has become a nuisance, and we've gone round, and we are trying to regularize it.
It is the entirety of the country that has allowed this illegality to thrive, because it's happening everywhere, and we are seeing it. I don't want to say anything. But then management has intention of writing through the regional minister to the appropriate quarters to let them take a look at the situation again and see what will come out of it.
All right. So what specific community challenges led to the decision of restructuring the whole, transport system?
Okay. So the decision or the process emanated from the transport subcommittee. The Assembly has a partnership with Bloomberg Philanthropies and Vital Strategies, and we do road safety advocacy and other things together. And so per the reports they brought, and then our engagements with the report and the data they collected from the various hospitals, especially from Kofanoti and others, we realized that the number of injuries and accidents that were occurring, those in majority or those leading were those who took tricycles and those riding the tricycles themselves. And so it became a concern. So that's where the Transport Subcommittee argued their points from. And then there were other concerns of the nuisance that was being created or is being created within the Central Business District. And already the Assembly had plans to reorganize the transport sector. So when this decision or this report came in, the Transport Subcommittee decided that then it was time that the whole reorganization of the transport starts and is implemented. So it went through the various phases from the subcommittee to executive committee and then to General Assembly meeting, where it was agreed or resolved that then it should be implemented.
Okay, so obviously we are witnessing a brouhaha right now, and there have been some arrests. So what is next? What is next for you with everything that is going on right now? What is next?
Well, since we made the arrest on Monday, they have since been taken to court, and the court has reminded them. So far, they have not come here to misbehave again, and they have not assaulted any officer again. And our officers or enforcement team are at the various points. I want to put on record that the tricycles that were seized were tricycles of riders who misbehaved towards the enforcement team. We were in the CBD and the various checkpoints, and when you get there, a lot of them that were told that you cannot enter moved or turn to go to any other place that they can go peacefully. And so were those that were recalcitrant that their items or their tricycles were seized. And the brouhaha was as a result that they wanted to use force to forcefully take the tricycles from the yard of KMA. And per the laws, when an item of yours is seized by an assembly, there are processes that you go to retrieve or get your items back by identifying the item, and you give a document that shows that it's yours. And then per the fee fixing, a fine is issued out to you and you are receipted. Then you get your items back. And so they use that process. That is what resulted in they throwing stones at the police officers, injuring officers, and all that happened.
Right. Henrietta, I have a final one for you, and I want to know if the KMA has an action plan for intercity transportation. What has been the action plan all these years?
All right. Offhand, I would not be able to say it. Maybe the technical officer, the transport director would be able to help. But I know that the assembly is working to make sure that in the future, buses, these short-range taxis will come and then at a point stop, so that smaller buses or smaller vehicles will be able to take them to the CBD. And the assembly also has a partnership with World Bank, WRI, where they are working on intercity busing system. And so you realize that the medians within Kumasi, when they are constructing roads, they try to leave the median as big as they can, so that when all these things come into fruition, the buses will be able to fly within the greater Kumasi enclave, not only in Kumasi, but to be able to go to Kwadaso, to be able to go to Swami, to be able to go to all that, so that if about 3-4 short are coming to town and you have a bus that has a dedicated lane for it, I'll be forced to join the bus because I know that I'm not going to encounter any traffic or congestion. It will bring me smoothly to my destination, and I'll be able to go back home, so that people, it will help you, not only the commercial church or something, but also your private car. If you know that if you take a bus and you're going to get to workplace or the place that you're going very fast, you'll be forced to leave your car at home and join the bus, and when you come, you use your private car for what you want to do.
All right, Henrietta, thank you so very much. We're grateful to you for that. Henrietta Fiakunedu is the Public Relations Officer for the Kumasi Metropolitan Assembly. For me, generally, we have failed in putting up a proper transport system. Elsewhere, I mean, there are routes you dare not ply if you are not designated to use. They're actually bicycle routes.
Thank you.
Bus rapid transport systems.
Right.
You get it?
Yeah, yeah.
But we don't have that here. There's a state institution called the Driver and Vehicle Licensing Authority that licenses these tricycles when they come in. And then they go out there. Now, we just heard from Henrietta, the PRO, that they are licensed as private vehicles, but they are operating commercially.
And they even have a union.
whose job is to check
Yeah.
this. So like I said, we've legitimized an illegality and it's coming back to bite us. And now we're dancing around like a headless chicken trying to regulate it. It's I don't know, it's very problematic.
Yeah, and I also think it's an issue of not being proactive. Like you
Yeah.
said, elsewhere there are routes just designated for, BRTs and stuff like that. But right now, I also think it's because the population is growing too. Maybe they have to also work on the roads.
Yeah.
Some
Yeah.
roads will need to be enlarged.
If we had designated roads for the special vehicles,
True.
we wouldn't be having this type of challenge. If our rail system was proper and was working effectively and efficiently, we wouldn't be having some of these challenges.
True.
Listen, there's no country that has developed on roads as the only means of transport. Look at our door. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I mean, it's a big problem. It's not, and just as she was saying, it's not restricted to Kumasi alone.
Yes, it's
We
true.
were here when the Greater Accra Regional Minister sought to stop Aboboyas from plying on major roads. There was the backlash.
That's
And today we
dangerous,
see them, they pick rubbish from wherever, and it will litter the whole place until it gets to its final destination. I drive on the motorway every day, and some of them don't even go to the refuse site.
True.
They just tip off on the side of the road.
Very, very bad. And they,
Yes.
and sometimes it's like they're literally driving in front of you, causing chaos. They don't want to be on the side. They just want to be in the middle.
It's just sad. Like I'm saying, we failed to develop a transport system. Listen, every assembly must have a local economic development plan, right? And this should include a robust transportation system. Do we have them? Are we implementing them? Are they working? You see, I don't know, but it's really sad to listen to submissions such as what the PRO gave us. So clearly we know that what they're doing is illegal, but we fail to nip it in the bud.
No,
We've
you see-
allowed it to grow.
Yeah.
It has now become a business. They even have a union.
And from her own point of view, if I have to analyze what she said, it feels like it's not in their power to actually, put out that law or put out that policy that you are registered under a private vehicle and you cannot be, doing local transport. But at the end of the day, we know that yes, it's a wrong thing. They know it's a wrong thing, but it's not in their power. So, like she said, let the right people just do their work.
What's not in their power really is to regulate them, as in give them stickers and endorsements and all that, because they are still privately licensed or
yeah.
privately registered. They are not registered commercial. But what we have failed to do is to stop them from becoming a business. We have allowed that to grow, and now it is coming back to bite us. And that is what, I don't know, that is what saddens me. We keep doing this like over and over and over and over. We are not learning from it. We are not growing from it. And it's always coming back to bite us. Now you want to regulate them. Now you want to restrict their movement. But when it began from one Pragya, you were there. You saw it. When the first Pragya drove into the CBD, you were there. You saw it. You sat back, did nothing. Now there are thousands of them moving in droves.
They probably enjoyed it too. They probably, are customers to them until this really happened. Like I said, when you watch a lot of foreign things and, you consume foreign
So
things.
should we do everything? You see, I mean, we're watching a lot of foreign things, right? But do we have the systems they have there
Exactly.
to apply same here?
Exactly. Because I'm sure in India, because all this started from India, I'm sure in India they actually have like systems that work for them to, have this sort of transportation.
What's the population of India? What's the population of Ghana?
True.
Perhaps they devised this means of
True.
transportation
True.
because of their large numbers.
True.
I am just saying, do we have same situation here? We don't. But have we developed a proper transportation system? Do we have that? Perhaps there is a plan, a roadmap sitting somewhere on somebody's desk or some shelf somewhere, gathering dust. No one is bold enough to implement it. And you see, underlying some of all these things, why these policies will initially come up and then there'll be a U-turn on it, is politics.
Yes.
Mind you, we are nearing an electioneering season.
And then we're going to hear more promises.
And they are going to be like, if you go ahead with this policy, it will affect our votes in the election.
True.
So let's calm down and you see, that's the thing we do. If we do not move, I keep saying this, we don't have policies that transcend political parties. And if we do not stop politicizing every single thing in this country, we will not make progress. Politics now, unfortunately, sad to say, is our bane of development. It is a huge stumbling block to our development as a nation because of how we choose to do our politics in this country. We politicize every single thing: health, education, transportation, everything. And that is the challenge we are facing now.
True.
It's sad.
It's a sad one. It's a sad one. And remember that we'll just keep bringing you more of this community development stories every Thursday right here on Breakfast Daily. On that note, we are going to take a break and we'll be right back with more.